Get my backup alternator that I had planned to rebuild. The regulator's bad. Since my current unit that I rebuilt is outputting intermittently, I decided to just buy a new alternator. It's like $20 or $30 more than taking an existing one into a local shop and rebuilding. It was about $120 to rebuild versus $140 US to buy a new one, although I suspect this might be a rebuild as well. But I do like that it's got the alternator AC tap right there as a post with a nut, and everything else is labeled all proper. On my two 80s vintage alternators, the AC tap you had to actually solder to one of the windings inside the unit. Yeah, it's like to the right. It's not this post, but you can see that blob of solder in there on the winding. So that was a pain getting the soldering iron in there. And then over time it would vibrate and the joint would fail. So of course my messy tool chest, I have like every socket size above and under the necessary 15/16. A neighbor of mine is a motorcycle guy. He's got a garage full of bikes. He took care of me and set me up with the proper socket. So I've never removed a pulley before. I watched a YouTube video, so now I'm an expert. Apparently I just put the impact driver on there. Let's see. Reverse. And in theory, it'll spin off. I'm skeptical. Let's see. Yeah. I'm going with no. I'm gonna stick a screwdriver in there or something. I don't really care if it breaks the fan blades. Yeah. Beauty. Okay, alternator V-belt tension. Move the alternator to adjust belt tension. Tension is correct when your thumb pressure on the belt between the alternator and water pump pulleys does not exceed 1/4 inch. This little indicator photo. Take a look down here. Get the new alternator installed. So between the alternator pulley, water pump pulley, this should not exceed 1/4 inch. Feels pretty good. If anything, yeah, that's good. I always thought it was between the engine crank and the alternator where it flexes a bit more. So I may have been historically here over tightening a bit, and maybe that accounts for some of this belt dust. So the new alternator's on. This alternator is the single foot design. There's some alternators that have 2 feet down there. At one point I had one of those on this boat. So the bracket on the engine side appears it'll accept either type. You just have to get a different bolt kit depending on which type of alternator foot you have. Also noticing the rebuilt alternator with the intermittent output has a smaller pulley. So I think that means that when I'm at cruising RPM, the alternator, this alternator would be spinning much faster. Then this is the pulley that was originally on the boat when I bought the boat. So on the back side, I've got the battery bank lead feeds to the positive connection, And then I'm tapping off of that positive continuous current to the oil pressure switch on the engine, so that when the engine's off or low oil pressure, that switch is open. Start the engine, oil pressure builds, the switch closes, that sends current from this side to this side, which feeds the oil pressure switch buzzer cutoff at the helm. And then it's also sending to the, I guess that's the exciter side of the alternator. So once that circuit closes, that's what triggers the alternator to start outputting current. And then I've got the AC tap, which will be for the RPM gauge. I'm gonna leave that disconnected for now. I wanna test the engine first to make sure we're... So I've been disconnected for about 45 minutes from shore power. See on our battery gauge at rest here, we're fully charged. We've got 12.76 volts on the house bank, but our charge state, we're at 99%. So the battery's fully charged, the house bank anyway. So I'm gonna note that, 12.76 volts. We'll start the engine and see if that voltage climbs. Hopefully we're getting 13.9, 14.1. Change. Yep, 12.8. Climbing. That's weird. Why is it climbing so slowly? Outputting amps. Well, we got positive amps. The voltage is so low. It's just the RPM maybe? Yeah, I'm gonna turn on the inverter, create a load. Negative amps. Alright, so we're getting about 4 amps at 13 volts. Batteries are fully charged other than what I pulled out starting the engine a few times. Did notice on the first attempt the alternator was vibrating a lot, you know, kind of like this. I didn't get any video of it. So I went down there and looked around and realized I had missed one washer on the underside. Ooh, not on the table. It'll dent it because you just got no. Back. Okay, once you sit on the floor, put it in your lap. All those pointy bits dent the wood. Can you pick it up, sit on the floor, put it in your lap or on the box? There you go. Oh, that's exactly what I wanted you to avoid.
I gave you the one you wanted.
Alright, if you made it this far, here's the fix. And I figured it out while we're sitting on a mooring over in Catalina. Turns out I got a bad ground. Now, I thought of that early on, and I used a a continuity meter just to test to make sure I had continuity on the casing and the negative post of the alternator to the engine and the ground, or the black wire on the battery system, and everything beeped out okay. There was continuity, but I never tested resistance, and it appears as though that's the problem and the explanation for the intermittent output, low voltage, and low amps when I am getting a positive charge. So I didn't have any black wire on board, but I had some extra red, so I wired up this temporary and labeled it in 3 places with paper tape. Get the short red wire that's actually going to the negative shunt for the Victron battery monitor. Down in the engine room, I am going to swap this out with proper black wire. But anyhow, that was the fix. After all these years, I think my original alternator was okay, and all the other ones I've swapped in have been fine, but I've just had a poor ground connection. I hope this helps and saves someone else some troubleshooting pain in the future. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.